Every secret that we carry in ourselves is like something that eats you alive inside.
The Chronic Truth Podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views expressed by our guests are their personal opinions and do not constitute medical advice. While we share experiences and strategies related to health, neither the host nor the guest are acting as licensed medical professionals unless explicitly stated. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan. Listeners assume all risks associated with implementing any information discussed on this show.
Good evening and welcome to the Chronic Truth Podcast. I'm Kimberly Nash. Every week we look for stories of true resilience, but today's guest embodies it. He is a proud gay Latino immigrant who has been thriving as an HIV survivor for over 40 years. He is a global speaker, an independent advisor on HIV and aging, and a beautiful creative force as a singer and songwriter. The founder of Aguilas in San Francisco to serve the Latino gay community to creating the global HIV Long-Term International Network. His work is changing lives. You may also recognize him from his Emmy award-winning documentary, Last Men Standing. Please help me welcome this incredible activist, director, and hashtag your singing advocate, Jesus Gillian, to the show.
Thank you very much for having me here today in this day, and that is HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day.
Yes.
And I always like to mention that, right? Always that our communities do not need to be aware, is society and the world that needs to be aware about all our health issues happening. So thank you for having me here. And
I am
looking
so
forward.
honored to have you. I've met you at Healthy Voices several times. Your story is truly incredible. Your work on Last Men Standing and everything that you've created is truly inspirational, Jesus. And I just would like you to share a little bit about your own personal story, and then we'll lead into some other questions.
Thank you. I was already crying, I have to admit, that the whole day, because when we start looking at our lives, sometimes it's not just like other triggers, but really like everything comes back to you. Yes, it has been 41 years that I was told you only have a few weeks to live. That was the year of 1985. I arrived to this country in 1984. I hardly was speaking some English, Apple House. And like any other younger person, you are, especially coming to this country with dreams and trying to fulfill everything that you always wanted to do, but also coming out to myself and life in general as a gay man. And I don't know if you're gonna beep certain words or not, but as a horny young man coming and I started to live life. It was one of those times of the disco times, dancing all night.
The 80s.
But also, yeah, the 80s, come on, the 80s. But, there were started to be already certain rumors about this weird, strange disease that in those days, it was even called a gay cancer, a gay disease, but when you are young and just exploring life, things happen. So in 1985, again, because I arrived in 1984, excuse me, by chance I went to one of those studies in UCLA that they were trying to check many of us to see if by chance that we were positive or negative to this weird virus that was happening. And I think like many of us of many different kind of health issues, I just remember being in this room and this nurse just come in and say, yeah, you're positive to this virus. And he left. And one of those things that you just like don't know exactly in that moment. I just know that many people are dying, that's all what I knew. And there's nothing wrong again from also, jumping from bed to bed, but I wasn't one of those guys. I knew exactly who I went to bed with. So in 1986, the guy that I had sex with, he died.
I'm so sorry.
And so with more reason, I knew that I didn't have much time to live. For real, Kim, in those days, there were sometimes in many of the places 100% mortality. Many of our friends and people, they were dying like flies, all over the place, and I think like many of us, when we are told also you have a few weeks to live or a few months to live, of course there is denial. I think I did the test after that like 5 times
Just to make sure.
because also there were a lot of false positives and false negatives. But no, it kept coming back positive. A little bit of history also that many people do not know about this. I was an immigrant. I had no papers initially, and now I am a citizen of this great country that I love. But in 1987, there was a ban against HIV positive people. So I was here, um, still with just my passport and things and everything, and then there was this um, period that they started to allow people to enter, but it's still not HIV positive people. I want to really tell you exactly what happened because not many times I have the opportunity, sorry, the opportunity to really uh, say how it was. So, because there was a legal opportunity that I can become a resident of this country. In those days, they were doing a blood test just by a number. I didn't have anyone that knew what was happening inside me. Something very important to remind people, this is before the internet. So most of us, we didn't have any way to connect with someone
Anyone.
and watch a podcast or look for groups or somebody else. So I had to tell a friend of mine that not only that, well, he kind of knew that I was gay. I guess sometimes people laugh about it, like, really? Yes, I know.
Really?
But I had to tell him that I was HIV positive, and I had to ask him. And it was such a, oh my God, such a horrible moment that I had to ask him, would you be willing to do the blood test for me? Because it was through a number. And he did.
Ugh.
Thanks to him, oh my God, like life is coming like waves towards me. Thanks to him, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm in this country. The the sad thing is that he died about a year ago from cancer.
I'm so sorry.
And this friend that, thanks to him, I am here as an HIV long-term survivor, as an immigrant, as a citizen of this country, as an advocate that I'm trying, I promise you, every day to to help as much as I can in any possible way. And he's gone. You know, I feel in many different ways that, and anyone has the right to judge everything that we do, but I feel like we trade lives in some way. You know, he's gone, and I'm still here after 41 years. And this man that he was even HIV negative and healthy and a beautiful, beautiful man. Um, and I'm here. Uh, you know, so we're talking about the 80s, right? And all
Right.
these different things. And I don't know what you were in the 80s, but there were like all these dance times
Yep. I was in
and things.
Miami Beach in the 80s.
Wow. I
I
was
worked
in
for
Los
a cruise
Angeles
line.
first.
So, yes, it was crazy.
And I just have to always every day remind myself of how lucky I am to be here, and always, even if we complain sometimes about the system and pharmaceuticals
Yeah.
and the agencies and all those things, and there are reasons that we do that, but also how thankful I am to so many people and agencies and groups that, thanks to them, I am here. So I really hope, and I know that you can share some of those feelings also. It's about, and that's how we met in Healthy Voices.
Mhm.
It's about to give back to our communities and hopefully give a little bit of hope, right? So,
And your
so
story does
yeah,
just that, Jesus. We have to be advocates because we both went through a highly stigmatized disease.
yeah.
Hepatitis C and HIV kind of, I mean, it's not as stigmatized as
No, no,
HIV,
no,
but
no, no.
I
Oh,
I was highly stigmatized too, and it's
yeah.
not how we should be treating people, not from our medical providers, anybody. We need to give more grace and love to each other because we're all facing something.
Yeah. And you are really touching in some very, very important points. And I think almost everyone kind of had the taste of it with COVID. And in many different ways, that's why many people were in some way paying attention to things. Um, what happened, and you were making that connection with Hep C. Every health issue and every disease has certain kind of level of stigma or stereotypes,
Mhm.
or sometimes it's lack of information or
Yes.
misinformation, especially in these days of the internet, that rumors and things
Mhm.
happen everywhere.
Yes.
But what happened with HIV and is still happening after more than 40 years is sadly that horrible stigma and discrimination that is still. And and let's make that connection that for me is so important always with many other health issues, including mental or physical.
Yes.
When HIV came out, and I just saw this video when somebody came to Reagan, and he was in one of those conferences with all the news people, and somebody came and he say, "Oh, by the way, Mr. President, have you heard about this new gay disease?" And everybody laughed. For real, everybody laughed. And also, and I still have that article somewhere. It was written for real. Oh, there's this new um, health issue that is happening to the worst of humanity. Literally, it was written that way. And he say it's happening to the drug addicts, to the homeless, and the case. But the way that we were referred to, it was really like we were the worst of humanity.
You are the worst of the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not
And
acceptable,
it's just any health issue and that when it carries that much weight, um, you also passed through COVID,
Mhm.
Kim,
Yep.
and you know how it was on top of the health issues that you have,
Very serious.
you know. But people they were talking about long-term COVID after 2 years, long-term COVID. For many of us, because the HIV pandemic is still happening, is still here. I don't know sometimes why the government or certain place could not recognize long-term effects of HIV and medications. To
Yeah.
be, and you know how it is, to be stigmatized, to be bullied, to be attacked um, every day or every week or whatever you want to call it, but constantly because of a health issue, it is a horrible way to live.
We
And with
isolate
that,
people with that way. We isolate them and make them feel less than. When most of the people that contract this, they don't go out saying, "Oh, I want to get this disease."
yeah,
They're living life, they're being human. And it was just an unfortunate situation that people got HIV until we learned how the transmission of HIV and Hep C, you know, uh, that we could protect ourselves. But until then, we didn't initially go out there and say, "Oh, I want to contract this horrible disease and be stigmatized for the rest of my life."
I wonder if, in your case, also people is still. I'm sure they do. That people still ask you like, so am I to be careful about certain things? Um, Even a couple of years back, I still heard someone that went in a date with me and told me, "So you're gonna have to teach me about things. So do I still have to be careful if I go to the same bathroom that you go to?" So I'm sure sometimes you hear things like
Yep.
that, and
Yep. And you feel bad because then you know how far we're lacking in educating the public. And that's where the gap is between, the societies and diseases is there's no education to properly educate people so they don't live in fear.
yeah, every time that there is any health issue, I really do think because it has been proved, depending on who is being affected or which communities are, that health issue is happening. Um, Sometimes is the emergency or the actions and reactions that the government or the health system did or do. With HIV and AIDS, it took years for them to really react. They try to educate the people and the system. It took so long, and even these days, it's kind of disappearing from our map. But I think many times if it's people of color or if it's any kind of community. And my women, I say my women because I love my powerful women that I am glad to know. When women are affected in different ways, it's not the same way that if the community in general is being affected. Uh, Even in these days, after 40 years, there's still sometimes a lot of lack of information and help for women with HIV. Not not too long ago, my love, for real, not too long ago, and people can find us in many of these social media, but not too long ago, this lady from Texas, this is really, how can you think that this is still happening? A lady from Texas called me and she was kind of afraid that somebody might find information about her being HIV positive because she was working in real estate. She has kids, and not even her kids, she say, knew that she was taking medication for HIV. She believed, of course, that it was her husband, the one that passed it to her, but she couldn't even talk about it because of the stigma and
Yep.
discrimination immediately attached to it. So because she was working in real estate, she was a woman in the public eye. And how can you live a life still hiding, still
Feeling
taking your
shame.
medications and shame and everything?
Mm,
Every secret that we carry in ourselves is like something that eats you alive inside.
yes.
And I have to talk about all the different communities that have HIV, because many people still think about that it's only even these days that it's still only gay people have it.
Yes.
But by now we know that anyone, of course, can have it. But also, and I know that I'm jumping all over the
No,
place, and you
you're
have to
good.
please
You're
me back.
good.
Uh, but just immediately a reminder that now, thanks to the medications that we have, um, I always tell people I can have the wildest sex with you, with someone, and not pass you the virus because I am undetectable, and my T cells are in good numbers, and you see how far we have come, but the stigma and discrimination are still there.
The stigma is still there, but the advancements in treatment is so far above now, which I am so happy to hear. Um, I have a question,
Sure,
and
anything.
I know a listener's gonna write me and ask. As far as you guys like Hep C
Yes,
undetected,
yes,
ours, we still carry the virus, but
yes.
we are considered undetectable. If you're undetected and you miss taking your medication, can you become active again with
Yeah,
active
of course.
virus?
Yeah, it is definitely, at least until right now. Now I'm coming out about every little thing. I was also Hep C. I
Okay.
also had Pepsi in my life, and then in some way I was lucky that I waited for the latest medication, and in only, in matter of 15 days or something, I was cured. But that doesn't mean again that I will always still, come out of positive, as we know. But same thing with HIV. If we stop taking our medications, our viral load can start
Okay.
to come
So it's
out.
not quite
Um,
like Hep C where it's actually clinically cured.
exactly,
You
clinically
have to
clear.
continue taking
Yeah,
medication.
with
Gotcha.
HIV, the reality is that there is no cure yet. It's interesting because especially after COVID, we became the other pandemic. Before COVID, everybody knew that HIV was still a pandemic. But after COVID, it's like almost like we cannot disappear. It's still here.
Yes.
The difference is that if you are undetectable, it's not like a usual as these days, really, like, are you positive? Because that is not the question anymore. Again, am I really emphasizing the whole thing about wild sex? Uh, it's not about what we do sexually. It's really more like if I'm taking my medications and everything is fine, uh, I cannot pass the virus to someone. But yeah, the difference is that sadly, Kim, I do think many of us, maybe it's just many of us think sometimes that the reason that there's no vaccines or cures is because a large percentage of our communities still have an HIV. It's either people of color, now with the Black community, in the gay community, many women, in these days, many women,
Uh-huh.
many times because the men are the ones that are sometimes jumping. Now the women can,
Yeah,
that can, are
and bringing it
many times
home.
because they're more uh, sexually active, and then they come home but sadly, again, the stigma about the woman, like especially in Latino countries, is somebody is positive, immediately she's the whore. She's like the one that, oh, I'm sure she was doing something that she should, and things like that. And that is such a horrible thing. Um, but yeah, that is a great question. Very, very important question. Um, because I think you go to any dating website, um, sadly, at least that's the only question that I have ever seen about the health issue is, will you date an HIV positive person? It doesn't say, will you date the person that is blind or the person that has cancer or any of those things? It's still the only question in some of these dating websites. Would you date an HIV positive person? I think, um,
Yeah.
I think in this day of awareness about being a long-term survivor, it doesn't matter what, but if you're a long-term survivor of any health issue, but in this case about, HIV, um, people should be aware that all of us, even if now we are getting older for the first time in history, we still want to be loved. We still want to be touched. We still want to be cared for. And I don't think many of us in any health issue want a special place at the table, but we want a place at the table.
I like how you said that. You don't want anything special, you just want a place. And we all
Yeah.
deserve that place. It's all, you're
Yeah.
welcome at my table anytime.
Yeah, you come to San Francisco. By the
I'll
way,
be there.
family and friends. Um, and by the way, I want to say this for the podcast. If anytime there's any question or something that you guys are curious about, please let Kim know, or I'm sure there's going
Yes.
to be many ways to get in touch with me or with our communities. I was asked once that when do I think somebody should be in touch with a psychologist or a therapist or a support group? For my opinion, and it's just a personal opinion, but it has been written in many different places. I think it's very important that, especially if it's a big health issue, and only knows how we know how big this health issue is. My suggestion is that as soon as you can, get in touch with support, especially these days that you have access to podcasts like this one, to links to support groups. Even if for safety, I will never recommend someone to tell everyone about any. It doesn't matter what health issue, including mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever. You don't need to tell everyone about it if you don't
Right.
feel like it. No one has a right to take you out of the closet. It's up to you. But please, if you can get in touch, that someone that has gone through some of these, you
That's
know,
that's
health
been
issues.
gone through that. By the year 2030, it's suggesting that over 70% of the people living with HIV are going to be over the age of 50. How do you think those early drug regimens have been causing lasting chronic pain, and how survivors face these battles of isolation, PTSD, and cognitive health?
Um, One of the things I think, and maybe you have noticed in Healthy Voices, but at least and by the way, my love to all my angels from Healthy Voices. I have talked to Caroline and Mama Becky and many of them about the whole issue of growing older. If you have Hep C, or if you have cancer, or if you have any of those things, excuse me, and then you add growing older, aging, that is not a health issue, but oh my God, ageism is so real.
Yes.
What many of you didn't know is that I lost my voice and my movement just about a month and a half ago, and somehow I'm here, so I'm thankful for that. So you hear me kind of getting gravelly or whatever it is, because I'm still having some therapy and things like that. I had to learn to talk again and to move again. So I don't even know how I did it, but I'm
It's
thankful.
because your purpose is still here, Jesus.
Yeah. We were not expected here. Nobody thought that there were going to be survivors of HIV. The people dying, it was so constant that in the documentary of Last Man Standing, for me, one of the most powerful moments is that when you see just the patients of the general hospital just going one after another and after another and after another, because it was an everyday thing that people were dying, and many of the people alive now, they lost their partners, their families, their friends. So
Yes.
we were not expected.
You're
So
not expected.
the system never thought, oh, what are we gonna do
Mm-hmm.
with these people that they are surviving HIV? No, Kim, it was only until about 10 years ago, that is when the documentary came out, and some people were, especially with the internet, we started to notice that there were other people alive. Before that, there were some people in the small towns or big cities. I heard so many times, I thought maybe I was the only one, because we just didn't have a way to know.
Mm-hmm.
We just knew everybody's dying. I am one of those lucky ones. And you are right. The percentage of people now with HIV older, over 50 years old, in the Bay Area is already 75%
Oh,
approximately.
wow. Oh, wow.
It's already there. What is happening is, in the whole country, is gonna be, in a few years, it's gonna be at least 50%. Oh, I love trivia, even in these fields. In other countries, for example, in Spain, the long-term survivors are mostly women,
Wow.
because what it was happening socially in Spain, and I'm so lucky, and I hope you get to meet some of these powerful, strong women that they are doing so much for the communities. It was other things happening. It was, remember that besides sex, it was also injection of drugs, or
Mm-hmm.
also people that had blood, how you call it, hem-
Transfusion.
transfusion
Yep.
of bloods and things like that. So curiously, in Spain, there's more women. In Africa, supposedly, it's more equal men and women and other things. Definitely, no doubt, still the gay community has been affected. One of the ways that we think about is like imagine what the world will be if many of these incredible people that they were, without being stereotyping, they were so amazingly creative. Die. Just to mention a few names, many, maybe some people do not know that Rock Hudson
Yes.
die,
Yep.
that Liberace die.
Die.
What is the name of this amazing, that dancer, Parishnikov, if I'm
Yep.
not wrong? There were so many people already there, but also so many people in the general community, singers, designers, people that will cut your hair. So many, without going to stereotypes once again, because then everybody thinks that every gay person is creative, and we have all kinds of people. Um, but it's very, very interesting, and I hope you get to know some of these
I
women.
would be honored to. Yes.
That that my respects, and I mean not only in Spain, also here in the USA, many of the people in on the front running of advocacy are also women. So my respects to that. Even in the gay community, Mija, please, I wanna also recognize the role that many transgender people had in the role to help our communities, and many people in the lesbian community, and also because they say that every straight woman should have a gay friend. And I do have my always my wonderful friends.
Oh.
I have to recognize that role of women in helping many of us.
You created the HIV Long-Term Survivors
Yes,
International Network.
yes.
What did it take to build this space, and how does it target the loneliness that so many survivors feel?
Well, first, yeah, like you mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of Águilas here in San Francisco, so I had a background of advocacy. But I'm one of those people that I don't want to say, and I will never say it was just me, the only person doing things. Um, there are, and there has been, other incredible people still right now fighting for everything that we do. What I did in that moment of, in some ways, mm, it was a bliss, but also ignorance. I noticed that we was missing that. When I started to see that I was here and other friends they were here, I just noticed that there were not these support groups in the internet. So all what I did in my power and ignorance was just to press a few buttons. I didn't know what I was getting into,
You
for
created a
real.
safe space.
Yes, but it was so fast the way that the group grew, and I was by myself. We're talking again about 10 years ago or so. People were calling me, and I made that. I put my telephone number, my address, and everything, and I just thought we can talk to each other. People were calling me, believe me, and in the middle of the night, telling me that maybe they were losing their home, or they had no money for some things, or their medicines were running off, or it was not working, one of the medicines. So there were all kinds of problems. But once again, there were other people doing things. I feel sometimes that I was in the right place and the right moment to do that. But the group grew very fast. It was very curious because I don't know if that happens with other health issues. I think everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard, and someone that hears your story. What happened in Gillian, the group, it was in some way even funny. In the crisis or horrible of this story, everybody that was joining the group in many ways, it was like, well, I've been surviving for 20 years I, and I had cancer. Oh, the next one will say, well, I've been surviving 25 and I had cancer and also pneumonia. Oh, and no, I was 30 and I had pneumonia twice. And so it was like everybody wanted to be the one that has more health issues, but it wasn't. I know that it was not about that.
Mhm.
It was about seeing me. Look at me for a moment, because no one has heard my story, and because no one has known about this, because I've been hiding all this time, because I'm taking my medicines still, without no one, because all my friends died during the pandemic, because I'm an immigrant and my family is in another country, because of
They have no one.
all these people, I think even now, and it happens with many other health issues, and that's the wonderful thing about now what we're doing, I feel, um, is that everyone wants to simply sometimes just be noticed for a moment. When we met at Healthy Voices, for me, and I've been showing you a little bit what I'm doing lately. Um, it's sometimes not about just my health issue, but sometimes how many things in common many times we have. Let's simply say, for example, pain. Pain
Uh-huh.
is such a huge word.
Yep.
And there's like 100,000 types of pains and ways,
And it connects people.
and it connects people. Exactly. But also things like, how is your anxiety today? Oh, let me tell you.
Well,
Can we
let
really
me
think about
explain.
that?
And then you get the me too. Me,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. Exactly. Um, so for me, like, if anything, I've been noticing sometimes like all these elements that connect us, and still, I just want to give the importance that every health issue have, because I'm sorry, I'm one of those people that hate it when they just when they say rare diseases, and there's like so many. So therefore, sometimes like your health issue, you kind of gets blended into one word. Um, and there's many kinds of cancers and many kinds of
yes.
things, and but also mentally, once again, sometimes how things affect every person. If you are a woman, if you are getting older, but yeah, the group. I want to say thank you also to all the people that by now help me with administration and everything. My health, in some ways, is not the easiest every day, and without these other people that are there, sometimes people think that they've been paid or something. This is people that they do it because they want to, and also there are other people that, for real, every day sometimes they just put a note saying, "I hope you're having a good day." And even that simple thing, it can make a huge difference. But
Very much.
just that, Mija, the group, we do what we can, helping each other and
Uh-huh.
motivating each other. That's what it is about. And also information. And also we have many allies, that
Uh-huh.
we have to recognize their, the way that they help. But honestly, it almost like it grew by itself. And now I feel like one of these days I cannot do anything anymore. I hope it stays there, and people, as soon as there is no cure, I hope we still, I do believe that we can help each other with sometimes simply saying hi, you know?
And that's the simplest trick. A smile and a hi goes far, far,
and, and emoji.
and I purposely seek out those people that are in the grocery store like this, and then I'm like, oh, hi, because I kill them with kindness, because you don't know, she might have lost her dog, or you don't know, and I thought, well, I'm not going to let her rub off on me. I'm going to rub off on her. So,
Yeah, yeah.
How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah, I know that you say probably that will come out at some point. I cannot change my name in most of the social media. And the last time, I guess I wanted to go for what sometimes people forget is our coping skills and our strengths.
Yes.
For me, it has been music and singing. It has been one of my major things that it helps me a lot. So every time that I do something, I hope it helps somebody else.
Yes.
So they can find me through Your Singing Advocate, hashtag Your Singing Advocate in many places, but also, you know, if someone really, I guess I'm one of those people that I will still answer the telephone if somebody might call me or something. By now, I have met, like I mentioned to you, some of these groups in New Zealand. I was lucky to be in Africa, in Spain, in other countries, and to get to know, to hear some of these, especially long-term survivors. And by the way, even those words, trying to be politically correct and not trying to be inclusive, it has been blended in some way. And you have the right to call yourself in any way that the person wants to be. Something very important, because I don't know how much time we have. The reason that there is sometimes words to mention in a specific community is because there is a specific health issues, or mental or physically.
Mhm.
The long-term survivors in general were considered long-term survivors before the cocktail of medicines that was created about 1996, because those medicines made a huge difference in people's lives. So long-term survivors, 1996 approximately, and before. But again, every person has a right to call themselves, as you prefer and want to be called, and nobody else can deny you that right.
I love that. Hey, Suze, it's been such an honor to have you on the show. Uh, Not only knowing you in person and getting to know you more just by hearing your story, um, you are an inspiration, and you are someone that I look up to. Um, and
Nancy.
it's stories like yours that help me realize that there is a need for connection in the chronic
Yeah.
community, no matter what you face.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and thank you for having me here. Um, in any health issue that we have, I think that you really pinpoint something. Sometimes people forget the word chronic. You say chronic pain or chronic mental health, chronic whatever it is. Uh, it's very important to realize that, and to don't forget your friends and your family. You don't have to call them and check on them every day, but if they've been sick for a while, um, don't don't stop checking on them every certain time, because they will still want to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Jesus. And as we close this episode celebrating HIV Long-Term Survivor Awareness Day, today, June 5th, is when we're airing this episode. And also, it's June Pride Month. Share how this episode has impacted you, and I ask that you please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. By doing so, you are helping us continue to bring stories such as Jesus to those who are struggling alone. And until next week, not without a fight.